I'm sorry for always being a nuisance. Thank you for being my partner all this time. A note left on the desk. That was the beginning of everything. I'm Tony, 30 years old. I work in the editorial department of a publishing company. 3 years ago, I married my colleague Angela, and now we're a typical dual income, no kids couple. Our work and personal lives were thriving, and our marriage was great, or so I thought. Then one day, Angela suddenly left a divorce paper and a note and left the house. There was no big fight or anything, and I don't remember blaming my wife. I was completely lost, not understanding why she wanted a divorce. Going back in time, I met Angela during the new employee training at work. I was in my 5th year at the company when I was assigned to mentor Angela, a fresh college graduate from the audiostory generation. Hello, I'm Angela. Nice to meet you. I was a bit worried because she was overly cheerful and seemed frivolous. As expected, she was not very keen on her job. Moreover, she was clumsy and made many mistakes, like the stereotypical incompetent new employee. Despite struggling, I was determined to train her to be competent. I need to understand her characteristics first. I started observing Angela closely. Clearly, she was the type to answer quiz questions before hearing them fully, often making mistakes. But Angela was hardworking and took her responsibilities seriously, even the tedious ones. Her presence alone brightened the office atmosphere. Always smiling and never missing a greeting, she soon became the idol of the workplace. Despite being her senior, I found myself learning from Angela. Being capable at work isn't the only thing necessary for a professional. Being someone who others think is worth helping is also an important aspect. Angela, with her charm and communication skills, gradually transformed into a competent woman at work. While working closely with her and providing earnest guidance, I realized I was developing feelings for Angela. I didn't want to mix work with personal life. For a year, I diligently mentored Angela, thoroughly teaching her the ropes of being an editor. Then, after I was no longer her mentor, I invited her out for dinner. It was ostensibly a celebration for the end of her training. Mr. Irwin, is this okay? This place is famous, right? It's even been in magazines. Angela said, looking around nervously. The restaurant was clearly too extravagant for a simple celebration. I cheerfully reassured her. Today's on me. Consider it a reward for your hard work this past year. I wanted to splurge. Hearing that, Angela visibly relaxed and nodded with a smile. Her concern for the other person's financial situation even when being treated was one of the things I loved about her. We enjoyed a renowned French full course while talking about work. Angela, slightly tipsy from the wine, had rosy cheeks that were so adorable, it made my heart skip a beat. After dessert was served, I looked at Angela, who was smiling and enjoying her sweets, and confessed. To be honest, this celebration was just an excuse to ask you out. I really want to date you, not just as colleagues, but seriously. Angela's jaw dropped in surprise. Did I mess up? Just as I was losing hope, Angela burst into laughter. Of course, I say yes. I'm so relieved. My 1-year-long crush wasn't in vain. I was almost taken aback by her straightforward response. What a sincere and honest person she is. I couldn't help but laugh along with her, feeling a sense of relief. Somehow, her boundless cheerfulness was my saving grace. I was glad she was my partner. After we started dating, I often thought so. The serious and meticulous me, and the cheerful, impatient Angela. Add us together, and we're just perfect. That's why. Will you marry me? That's how I proposed to her. Angela, crying tears of joy, said yes, and we happily made it to our wedding. Even after marriage, Angela was like a runaway train. Driven by her desires, she'd act without consulting me, rushing into decisions. Suddenly planning trips or bringing home pets without warning. I learned to handle her impulsive nature with a wry smile, understanding her thoughts and preventing potential mishaps. I became, in a way, the husbandly stopper. Angela would pout and say, I'm not a child anymore. Can't you stop checking on every move I make? It's like you're my guardian, Tony. Our exchanges were like a comedic duo, and with each one, I cherished my time with Angela even more. But then, this divorce paper and note on the table. What could they possibly mean? At this moment, I couldn't understand Angela's feelings at all. Moreover, she had mailed her resignation to our workplace. Anger surged within me. I immediately grabbed my phone. Despite multiple calls, she didn't answer. In a panic, I contacted Angela's family home, but it seemed she hadn't returned there either. Her mother, sounding apologetic, spoke to me. I'm truly, truly sorry. But without any word from her, we don't know what to do either. She was absolutely right. Angela had made up her mind, and blaming someone wouldn't change the outcome. In the end, I couldn't even manage to have a conversation with Angela. 3 months later, I reluctantly submitted the divorce papers. It was a tough decision, persuaded repeatedly by both my parents and Angela's. 5 years after the divorce from Angela, I became a divorced businessman, throwing myself into my editing work more than ever. In truth, it was the only way to distract myself from the loneliness. For a project creating a tourist guide for each state, I had to go on a business trip to Montana, where Angela's family lived. That day was hectic. Busy with interviews and meetings all day, I realized it was already evening. Saying goodbye to the crew, I started walking through the bustling night streets. Come to think of it, I hadn't been to Montana since the divorce from Angela. Feeling nostalgic, I strolled around the streets near Central City, enjoying the scenery. That's when it happened. I saw a mother walking, holding the hand of a young child. Gazing absently, I muttered in shock, "Angela. Is that Angela?" I blended into the crowd, watching her from a distance. It was definitely Angela. She was so preoccupied with her fussy child that she didn't notice me. As she passed by, talking to the child, I felt my pride shatter. A dark emotion started to well up inside me. I had suffered so much from the divorce, yet Angela seemed to have remarried and was living happily. Even though it had been 5 years. I was surprised at how deeply hurt I still felt. I thought I had moved on from Angela. The realization that I still harbored feelings for her was painfully clear. But Angela had moved on, starting a new life without me. I kept reminding myself, trying to accept it forcibly. Sadly, it seemed there was no role for me in this story anymore. Just as I was about to leave, suddenly, I heard a child's adorable voice, "Mommy, there's Daddy." Instinctively, I turned around. And then, there stood Angela, pointing at me, a surprised expression on her face, with her child by her side. We both stood frozen, unable to move. The child's words, calling me Daddy, echoed in my mind. Angela remained silent, looking uncomfortable. I blurted out, "Hey, long time no see. You look well. If you have time." I suggested we go into a nearby family restaurant to talk. Angela nodded in agreement. Then I spoke to the child, whose name turned out to be Carl. He was a lively-looking young boy. In the family restaurant, we started by sharing recent updates and engaging in awkward small talk. After a while, I confronted Angela with a question that had been haunting me. Why did we even get divorced? I can't think of any reason. Angela seemed uneasy, but it appeared she had made up her mind. Taking a deep breath, she began. "There's something I never told you." I watched her, heart pounding. What could have driven Angela to leave, making her think she had to get out of the house? What had I done? "I heard your true feelings. Someone said you found your wife's presence bothersome, that you regretted marrying so soon." While soothing and excited Carl, Angela conveyed her feelings, her voice trembling. She left the house because she thought she shouldn't be there after hearing that. I listened intently to Angela's story, but my mind went blank for a moment. I couldn't recall saying anything like that. Did I ever say such a thing? I asked if she might have mistaken someone else's words for mine, but she just shook her head. Pondering with crossed arms, then it hit me. Maybe it was that time. I got it. I stood up, almost shouting in the restaurant. "It's not true, Angela. You misunderstood." I rapidly explained the situation to a confused Angela. It was a work conversation about editing a fictional story. "You must have misunderstood it. You know Easton, my junior from college who's a writer." Angela's expression changed as she began to understand. I explained Easton's situation. He was working while aspiring to be a novelist, living a double life. He often sought my advice for his writing. On that day, 5 years ago, Easton was stuck with a piece he was submitting for a literary award and called me for help. "Please don't tell Angela I called you. You might have connections with the award judges, right? So, what do you honestly think of my work?" Easton had asked me for advice, and I had spontaneously replied, "I think you haven't written the protagonist's mindset about considering divorce well enough. If it were me, I'd say something like, 'My wife's presence is unbearable. I married too soon.' That's how you need to cut deep, or the following text won't be impactful." Easton didn't want others to overhear, so I had deliberately moved to the bedroom to continue our discussion. Little did I know Angela came to retrieve something she'd forgotten there. She had overheard my advice and completely misunderstood. 5 years later, I learned this shocking truth. I was torn between being exasperated and amused by Angela's absent-mindedness. Angela, awkwardly smiling, confessed her mistake that had led us to divorce. It was a situation so absurd that I could only laugh. Really? I'm so sorry for my misunderstanding. Angela apologized. I couldn't just say it was okay. Why hadn't she just asked me about it before leaving? It was such a typical, misguided Angela move. Angela began to share her story in bits and pieces. After our divorce, I planned to return to my parents' home. But then I found out I was 2 months pregnant. I couldn't go back to you or my parents. So, she got a job at a familiar publishing agency as a contract employee. Angela, not wanting to burden her parents, rented an apartment and somehow managed to give birth to my child alone. But being a single mother was harder than she had expected. Struggling financially, Angela finally returned to her parents' home. After being out of touch for so long, she faced a serious scolding from them. As I listened, nearly collapsing in my chair, I looked at Carl eating his parfait. This kid is my child. I had to ask the question that was bothering me the most. Earlier, Carl called me Daddy, right? How did he recognize me without ever meeting me? Angela, somewhat awkwardly, chuckled. For Father's Day at Carl's daycare, they were drawing pictures. When asked about a daddy, I showed them your photo. So, I guess he recognized you today and hugged you immediately. My mind was in complete gridlock, bombarded with these shocking revelations. Not only had our divorce been based on Angela's misunderstanding, but unbeknownst to me, I had become the father of a son. As I sat there stunned, Angela began her fervent apology. I'm truly sorry. My assumptions and haste turned your life upside down and caused you so much trouble. While inwardly fuming, I couldn't help but start to find the situation somewhat amusing. This was an extraordinary twist in life. I had always wanted children since the beginning of our marriage, and I never wanted to divorce Angela in the first place. In a way, this was a welcome development for me. While thinking this, I found myself humorously accepting Angela's unpredictability. The once serious and stubborn me was unfazed by the revelation of a secret child. I stopped Angela's earnest apology. It's okay, calm down. More importantly, thank you for raising our child alone these past 5 years. You must have had a tough time, but you did great. Looking at her tearful eyes, I continued. I'm sorry for creating a situation that made you believe I wanted a divorce. Back then, I was so busy with work and constant business trips. It's no wonder you suspected infidelity. Remembering the past, Angela burst into tears. Yes, I was also at fault. It wasn't just her jumping to conclusions. I gently suggested to Angela, shall we fix this crazy situation together? You, me, and Carl, let's start over. Upon hearing this, my wife, sobbing, and said, are you sure about me with all my blunders? What if I cause you trouble again? I laughed, responding, what are you talking about now? It's always been like this from the start. My dull life only becomes exciting and fulfilling with someone as interesting as you. Let's go get a marriage license from the city hall. Angela's smile returned, hearing my sarcastic yet affectionate words. Carl, watching us smiling, shouted, let's go. That's my boy. He knows just how to cheer up Angela. We walked hand in hand down the street at dusk, determined never to drift apart or separate again. It was the moment Angela and I truly became husband and wife. A year after our fateful reunion in Montana, we remarried. Back to our quirky life as a couple, Carl quickly accepted me. Today is his daycare's sports day. I'm all in on the parent-child events. After making my son feel lonely for 5 years, I'm determined to win the first prize for him. Angela watches me with amusement. Maybe I had been treating Angela like a daughter all along. But now, we're truly life partners. I make sure to listen to Angela's opinions before drawing conclusions. Despite the hardships of these 5 years, I'm determined to make every day so happy that it outweighs the pain. And that's my resolve.